The US dollar is going to collapse because 159 countries are now going to be using the BRICS payment system using XRP. XRP, the crypto. Are you ready for what's coming next? Now, all those BRICS nations, which is China, Russia, Brazil, India, right? All these major nations have gotten together, 159 countries set to adopt their own payment system, BRICS payment system, which is different from what the world uses right now, which is called the SWIFT trading system, right? Which uses mostly the US dollar. But once they start using the BRICS payment system, guess which currencies are they going to be using next? And what is that payment system? Is it going to be based on the XRP? So this was major news that was leaked by the Russian, right, central bank chief, right? And this goes to the core of the Western economy. Guess what? All of the United States economy, its stock market, its bond market, right, even its government is based on the United States dollar. Because US borrows so much money, right, has so much debt, it has to rely on the strength of the US dollar. If the US dollar is weakened or destabilized, now who's going to borrow the United States money in US Treasury bonds and then expecting that to be paid back, right, in US dollars? Who would still invest in the US bond market or even in the US stock market because you're holding US dollars? What happens next? Take, for example, the recent crash we've had in the NASDAQ, right? Now, this is the NASDAQ, the blue line. And this green line is the Japanese yen to US dollar exchange rate, right? And basically the NASDAQ just follows, right, the US dollar exchange rate to the yen. And I've explained to you guys why this is happening. Now we're getting a major bounce back up in the NASDAQ, right? And Bitcoin is kind of slow to follow. But why are the Japanese letting their currency weaken again, just to help the United States to come out of its own stock market crash? Well, that's because Japan doesn't have its own military. The United States basically occupies Japan, right, with over 80, that's right, 80 plus military bases just in Japan. So yes, a strong US dollar is everything. But guess what? It's America's own presidents, right? Donald Trump, JD Vance, these guys don't even want a strong dollar anymore because the higher the dollar is, it's harder for American exports, manufacturing to export overseas because it becomes too expensive. So Trump and his apprentice, JD Vance, are famously calling for a weaker US dollar. So then you'd have American manufacturing jobs and American manufacturing can export overseas. And because they cut in interest rates, right now we're seeing the US dollar starting to weaken a little bit, right? But to replace the US dollar, that's going to be a long-term thing. Might take 5 to 10 years, right? XRP, the Russians and the Chinese will never use it because it's an American crypto.